The president will touch on the country's gun violence epidemic this evening, and there will be an empty chair in the First Lady's balcony box to symbolize the victims, including the people of San Bernardino, California. Several first responders and family members of victims of last month's terror attack will be in the gallery, including my next guest. She is Trenna Meins, the widow of Damian Meins, who was shot and killed just a couple of weeks ago. Joining her here, Congressman from California, Takano, who represents Damian's hometown of Riverside. So thank you so much for taking the time. And just my heart goes out to you and, of course, all the family members from San Bernardino and all these shootings that we cover far too often. So thank you.
Thank you.
Can we just begin with your husband? Can you tell me a little bit about him?
He was a very intelligent man, a very docile man. He loved the diversity in the office, and he loved working with the kids. So he was a wonderful human being.
The kids, isn't these two lovely daughters off camera here?
Not
and
only
the children
those,
from the center. Right.
Right. Not only those children, but for the school kids.
Right.
And he really was a community service individual. So he tried to help everyone, and his idea was to help everyone if he could, and to even the smallest things for anybody was the right thing to do.
It's all the little things, I always say.
All the little things.
You know, I was on the air when it happened, and our heart obviously breaks for all of you all in San Bernardino. But I've talked to too many gun violence victims, and I ask, tell me about the call, because everyone got the call.
Well, the call was, we heard on the news. I heard on the news.
That's when you first sort of found out?
That's when I found out, and I texted him, and I called him, and he didn't respond. And then our friend called me and said that he was going to come down. Everybody was trying to call him and trying to find out where he was, because it was kind of mayhem. Everybody was running around. Nobody knew anything yet. And then we went down to the reunification center. We stayed there till 8 o'clock at night when the last bus came in. Then we were taken into the room and told that the wounded were in the hospital, and those family members had already been notified, and that we were to go home, and we would be contacted the next day, and for a positive identification. So we got home about 10 o'clock that night.
And I already know the answer to my next question as far as why you would ask Trenna to come to be seated with you at the State of the Union. But there are so many families. Why specifically did you ask her?
Well, Trenna and her family, Mr. Meins, constituents of mine, and I lost two constituents. I was able to reach Trenna and speak to her personally. I would have had a much tougher decision had I been able to reach both families, but I wasn't family of the other victim who lived in my district, but whose family actually lives outside the district. So really, it's a matter of, those of us in the area, the other members of Congress lost, one or two members of their districts, but I felt it was also important that the families of the victims were represented here. My colleague, Mr. Aguilar, has done a wonderful thing in inviting the police chief and the sheriff and some of the other first responders. Right. But I really felt it was important for our community that we also had the real faces of the victims.
I'm wondering, before you lost your husband, how familiar with gun laws were you in this country, or the knowledge of loopholes or background checks, or is this something you very quickly have become an expert on?
Well, we did talk about it before. We're a family that we had guns. Mm-hmm. Our family has guns. There's hunters and there's policemen and SWAT team members in our family that have guns. We went ahead and we had talked about shooting and gun control. We had also talked about our views on that before. But since this has happened, we have found a lot of loopholes that we didn't know existed. And we would like those loopholes to become tighter so that not everybody has to worry about this or at least it's more difficult for them to go ahead and do
Do you feel like the president's executive actions have gone far enough for you?
Not for me, but it's a good step.
The pushback, I was just in Virginia the other night with the president in Anderson as part of this town hall on gun violence in this country. And I mean, I look at you as a member of Congress, and I think one of the questions critics would say is what these executive actions that will prevent a killer couple from murdering 14 people potentially, or getting a gun. What's your response to that?
Well, you know, just because you can poke holes in some of these proposals, that they won't absolutely with 100% certainty guarantee that a crazy person or a mentally ill person or a radicalized person will get a weapon, is no reason not to try to tighten the loopholes. Look, this guy, Farouk, went to this other guy, Marquez, because he felt that he couldn't pass
the other guy to get the guns.
Yeah, and so that suggests to me that background checks are important. They can work. Look, we need to tighten up the whole chain of ownership. In California, if I want to transfer ownership of my automobile to another person, I have to go to the DMV and register.
That's exactly the point the president made about titles and automobiles the other night, and
we should be able to
we
should be able to trace this. Right. This is not taking away people's Second Amendment, and the Meins, like many of my constituents, are respectful of the Second Amendment, but it's, you know, common sense things like we should be able to have tighter background checks. Had this young man Marquez even thought about the consequences of what he was doing potentially, and knowing that it was tighter penalties for transferring a weapon without a second thought. I mean, so there needs to be tighter background checks. There needs to be a better accountability on who owns what weapons and that sort of thing.
Okay. Congressman Takano, thank you so much. And Trenna, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Forget, we want you to